Moses was not a Hebrew person. Moses was a Chemite, born, well, that's wrong, birthed in the land of Chem, which is what Egypt was called before they renamed it. According to the Bible, which is basically our only source of information on this dude named Moses, but it's all code, and man, it's amazing. Anyway, for the storytelling part of it all, Moses was supposedly a Hebrew child, a young baby that was put into a basket and sent down the Nile River, specifically to a place where Moses' earth mother knew that the Pharaoh's daughter liked to bathe. So it was intentional, and there was a lot of persecution on these so-called Hebrew people by the Egyptian people, but it wasn't called Egypt then. Egypt's a Greek word, and Egypt's a lot older than Greece, so it wasn't called Egypt back in Moses' time. Greece wasn't even around yet. It was called Chem. Well, Google it, Chem, K-H-E-M, the land of Chem. The people there were Chemites. They later became known as gypsies. And so Moses was a gypsy. He was a Chemite because the Bible story is reversed. The people that say they were the victims were really the villains. And that's the only reason why such a thing as this Bible could even be the highlighted story of a victimized people and still be in circulation 2,500 years later, because the victims don't get to write the history. There's no victims, no genocided people on this planet that ever got to write or rewrite the history about how they were oppressed and crushed and killed and taken over by the victors. If there's a book out here, and it's a history book, it was written by the conquerors, not the conquered. Everybody knows this. So how do the victims have a best-selling book out there called the Bible? And how is it that this autobiographical Hebrew history book, unchecked for facts, becomes the infallible Word of God? Well, that happened through blood and murder, conspiracy, and such. Whole villages would be burned to the ground if you didn't kiss the cross. That's how the Bible got in. But the Bible has a hidden story, just like tarot does. Just like tarot cards. There's something hidden beneath the actual apparent stories. That's why they don't make sense, the Bible stories. But if you know what you're looking at, that thing makes a lot of sense. The Bible and tarot are basically saying the same thing. We'll talk about that some other day. For now, Moses. Moses was not Hebrew. Moses was raised in the Pharaoh's house, but the Pharaohs were Hebrews. There's a book of Kings, a whole book of Kings in the Bible, the Hebrew Kings. The Hebrews were a people that were known for conquering other people. The Hittites, the Canaanites, the Philistines. They were always at war with other people because, according to their own book, the Hebrews were looking for their promised land, and they wouldn't mind taking yours to see if it fit. So the Hebrews have always been looking for a promised land according to their own book called the Bible, which brings us to modern day understanding of what's going on in Palestine. They're still looking to increase their promised land. Anyway, back in the old days of the Bible when Moses was around, well, he wasn't a Hebrew. The story's reversed. And he wasn't Egyptian because the place wasn't called Egypt yet. He was a Chemitian, a Chemite. He was from Chem, who later became known as Gypsies. See, the Hebrews never got thrown out of Egypt. The Hebrews didn't cross the Red Sea. It was the people of Chem that left. They had to, because it was taken over by the Hebrews. The three great patriarchs of the Hebrew religion were running Egypt. Moses was raised in the Pharaoh's house. Abraham married a Pharaoh's daughter. And Joseph, the dream interpreter, 7 years of famine and plenty, he was running Egypt. He was second in charge of the whole damn place. So these three patriarchs of the Hebrew religion were running the country, or at least were deeply embedded into the hierarchy of the place. And there have been all kind of people that have been pharaohs. There have been Greek pharaohs, Roman pharaohs. So don't get it twisted, man. They were Egyptians. The word Egypt wasn't even around then. There were Hebrews coming in, conquered the area like they do everything else, and enslaved the people of Chem, the Chemites, and eventually a group of priestly class, high priestess, high priest people, a small group of the original people of Chem, they're the ones who made all that magic in Egypt, in the Bible, in Exodus. They're the ones that performed all those spells and stuff. The Hebrews never did anything like that, and they never have since. It was the damn gypsies. Well, they were called gypsies later because after the Hebrews told them to get the hell out of the country because they killed every firstborn child in the land with a spell, the Passover spell. That was done by the people of Chem, the people who raised those pyramids, the people who built those temples, the people that understood astrology, mind over matter. It was never the Hebrews that did that stuff. Those pyramids weren't built by slaves, they were built by bosses. So in the Exodus, it wasn't the Hebrews leaving Egypt, it was the people that were formerly had the country, the people of Chem who were taken over by this Abraham, Moses, Joseph crew. And it was because they cast some spells on these Hebrews. The story's rewritten to hide everything that happened there, and there's a lot went on there, man. Oh my God. The theft on humanity. But check it out. Moses couldn't enter the promised land, and Moses didn't do any of that magic. He was a gypsy. He was a Chemite. But he was raised in the Pharaoh's house. He didn't know shit. It was his brother Aaron. Aaron did the magic. Aaron was allowed to bring the people into the promised land. Aaron was not raised in the Hebrew house of the Hebrew Pharaoh. He wasn't corrupted. He was pure Chemite. Come from the people that knew that magic of that time. Come from the people who raised those pyramids and such. And he put a spell on those Hebrews and said, let my people go. And those outcasts, those Chemites, with Aaron and Moses, how do you think Moses got the word? His brother Aaron said, hey, go talk to your stepfather there and tell him we're leaving Egypt. That's how it went down. And Moses was listening to Aaron, and Aaron was a pure Chemite priest, and his wife was a high priestess. And they led a small group of people out of there that still had pure Chemite blood in them. The rest were intermarried by then. And the first stop after you leave that area and cross the Red Sea, the first stop is Jerusalem, where the three main religions of the world have their most holiest places, where the gypsy people landed after they left their own country, which was formerly known as Chem. So eventually it became known as outcast Egyptians, exiled Egyptians, those outcast Egyptians, then gypsies. Where do you think we got tarot from? Palm reading, fortune telling, spiritual advisors, astrology, the gypsies, the kinfolk of Aaron.